Everyone, we're so excited to have you here at our webinar today. Whether it's morning, afternoon, or night in your part of the world, we're very excited that you've decided to join us on the introduction of our recently launched Technology Landscape Report module. So if you want to take another moment, grab yourself a cup of coffee or any drink. We'll wait another moment here for people to join the webinar, and then we'll dive right in. Okay, see people are joining in here. If you just joined, welcome. We're really glad to have you here. So yeah, let's get started. Let me introduce our panelists for today's webinar. First and foremost, we have Eléonore Dixon-Roche, Product Manager at Research Solutions, join us today, together with Hiedi Nichols, Customer Success Manager at Research Solutions. Welcome, Eléonore and Heidi. And then also allow me to introduce myself. My name is Julia Heason. I'm a Senior Growth Marketing Manager at Research Solutions. And as you can probably already tell, I'll be moderating our conversation today. So for the ones of you that aren't familiar with Research Solutions yet, let me just cover, actually before that, let me cover quick housekeeping items here. If we can just move the slide one forward. So you're all in listen in mode, you don't have to worry about any background noise whatsoever. We have time for all of your questions at the end of the webinar. So you'll see on the Zoom bar below where it says Q&A, you can just click on that. And as soon as your questions come up, feel free to add them in there. But know that we'll get to them towards the end of the webinar. And then also this webinar is being recorded. I'll send out the webinar recording right after the webinar. So you don't have to worry if you miss a specific part or you want to share it with your colleagues afterwards. We've got you covered. Okay, now I do want to introduce Research Solutions for just a moment here, and then I'll hand it over. So Research Solutions was founded in 2006, and we simplify and streamline how organizations discover, acquire, manage, and then also create scientific articles and data. With a suite of innovative products, we empower researchers worldwide and the way that they transform scientific information and how that information is accessed and utilized. Then a few months ago, we actually acquired Resolute AI, an advanced search platform aimed at equipping organizations with search, discovery, analysis, and knowledge management tools powered by AI and NLP technologies. In today's webinar, you'll learn more about some of the core abilities of these acquired AI technologies, but I'll actually leave that to you, Eléonore, to tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah. So with the suite of different companies and products now between Article Galaxy, so access and management when it comes to any type of articles, and then with the acquisition of Cite, also and analyzing anything about those citations and their assistant tool to be able to write and ask natural language questions. That covers a lot of the access management and to a certain extent discovery across all of the different types of articles there are. With the addition of Resolute, we cover lots of different types of data sets, and that goes beyond just articles. So think patents, clinical trials, grants, press releases, FDA data sets, and the like. And so that's what you would see under, say, like Discover. And then with Nebula, which is the third at the bottom on the left-hand side below Discover, that's looking at internal content. So say you have a SharePoint site and you want to be able to search that SharePoint site, we have those type of products. So by combining all of these three companies together and all of their products, it's really combining all of the discovery, search, analysis tools, access and management across everything. And I really want to differentiate between search and discovery for a moment. Search is, think about it, you kind of know what you're looking for. You already have you're developing a search strategy. You have an idea of what you're trying to find. Whereas discovery is, you have no idea what you're looking for, and it's kind of like going down the rabbit hole and figuring out like what's interesting, whereas the white space to maybe develop and research on, that type of thing. So today we're going to be focusing more on the analysis column, and it's our first module that we're launching, and it's looking at technology landscape specifically. So as I mentioned, there's a lot of different types of data. There's a lot of data. It's not going any away. So Heidi is going to go through a little bit about that, and then we'll get into it.
Thanks so much, Eleanor. All right, so I do want to talk to you a little bit about the problem that we're trying to solve here at Resolute AI. So a lot of our customers, I work with them directly, supporting with searching and trying to find the information that they need, deliver value, that sort of thing. But a lot of them have the same problem. They're just overloaded with information. So it's not, industry specific either. So we see this across scientists at the pharmaceutical companies and the medical device companies. But we also see this, with the researchers at consumer products companies, even agrochemical companies. So all of these people are just sort of bogged down by all of the data that's available, especially within the public domain. So here at Resolute AI, we are a comprehensive search and discovery tool, as Eleanor mentioned. We do have that diverse set of data sources. So again, patents, publications, clinical trials, grants. So all of this data allows users to really find most, if not all of the information they need on a daily basis within one platform. Of course, the artificial intelligence that we use as well just helps to weed through some of the overwhelming information and really drill down to the information that is relevant or of need. Also just with one search. So again, rather than having to replicate these types of searches across many different platforms, users can really do this within one search. So we do support many different use cases, but some of the benefits of this, of course, is making sure that you're not missing anything, any critical insights. Of course, it is increasing the speed of search and discovery as well, because again, you're not having to remember which platforms house which data, or again, even just be able to search across many different types of searches. We can also assist with serendipitous discovery. Eleanor did mention this again as well, but we use natural language processing to apply consistent metadata across all the documents we ingest into Nebula, and this allows you to make some of those connections that otherwise would have been quite difficult to uncover. Again, having access to all of this data and content within one platform, just to support all those different use cases, whether it's identifying expertise or key opinion leaders, tracking the clinical trial landscape or competitive landscape, or in this case, the technology landscaping. So I am going to hand it back over to Eléonore now to talk about innovation, technology landscaping, and also the associated workflows.
Thank you. So I'm going to start from the beginning. I know there's some people on this call, this is your daily job, and you have to create these reports, and for some others, maybe not fully comprehending what they are or have heard of them, but not entirely sure how to use them. So with a technology landscape report, the goal is to have a fairly comprehensive overview of how a technology is being used within different products and within the market, and basically have an understanding, do you want or need to develop that technology or bring it into your own company? So there are different types of roles that tend to focus on creating these and those that actually use them. The ones that often create these reports, if they are internal, so this tends to be in slightly larger companies, there are teams that put these together. So tech scouts, anyone who's on the market analysis side, looking at anything who's a subject matter expert. So they really know the domain, so they're probably best suited to put this together. And then sometimes as well, the bigger companies using consultancies, but especially small to mid-sized companies often will use consultancies to put these reports together. And the reason for that is you kind of need someone that knows, has expertise not only in the area of technology, but has expertise in the area of the data and the type of data they need to look at. So that's understanding patents, knowing how to read a patent, knowing how to read research, i.e. any published research, having understanding of any indicators within the news. So reading a press release and kind of reading between the lines of companies going a certain direction. It requires a pretty broad set of expertise. And so if we look at people who are looking at from a market analysis point of view, they really need to have an understanding of current uses of that technology amongst their competitors. So how are their competitors using that technology? Are they using this technology? Who is, who isn't, and why? Also understanding, are there any emerging trends? If all of a sudden certain people are starting to invest money into these different types of technologies, which can be seen in patents that have been applied for, but not necessarily granted yet, if they're starting to increase the amount of applied patents, not necessarily always publications, because they tend to be like a lagging indicator, and even patents to a certain degree can be lagging. Anything to do within the clinical trial space, if someone's starting to increase the amount of clinical trials using a certain technology, that can also be an indicator. And then from a strategy point of view, it's once these reports are created, it then goes into the business side of the company and really understanding, do we want to incorporate this technology? If we do, can we do this in-house? Are we going to have to hire? Do we need to contract out? There's a lot of other decisions that then go on from that. And then from an investment point of view, this can either come from internal investment of time or external investors in where they're investing their money, trying to evaluate, is there potential in this space? Is it going to give an actual like return on investment in the long trend? Is there growth potential, really? So, and then positioning among competitors. So if everyone's kind of using it, it may not have like a whole lot of growth behind it. If everyone's already doing it, it might be an emerging opportunity. And then with product development, it really is important to understand if there are any market gaps or opportunities for innovation. So this is especially important with the innovation teams within a company, trying to figure out, do you want to go in a certain direction or not? So it's a brief overview about technology landscaping. We do have a poll. I think, Julia, if you can.
Yeah, let's go over there. Let's click to that slide as I pull this up here. And we'd just like to know from everyone here, let me pull this up. Okay, we'd just really like to know, how you use technology landscape reports right now, if you do at all. So the question is, do you create or use technology landscape reports? And if so, how are those generated? So the options are, no, I don't use them, or I don't need them. No, I don't use or create technology landscape reports, but they could be helpful. Yes, we have a team that creates them internally. Yes, we outsource these reports, or if it's other, then feel free to add whatever that is in the chat, and we'd like to read all about it. Okay, so I see people filling it out. Thank you. We'll give you just another moment here. Okay. Looks like we've got all votes in. Let's look at the results. Okay, interesting. You can probably all see this right now. It looks like right now, no, I don't need them, 38%. Right next to it is, I don't use them right now, but they could be helpful. And then also a few that they have a team that handles them internally, 15% saying that they outsource these reports. And I'll see if we have some in the chat. Looks like we don't. So yeah, it looks like it's almost like an equal split here between these options. Let's see if that changes after the webinar is over.
Yeah, thanks so much for that. And then we're going to move on to workflows. This is also helpful to understand for even if you don't use them, don't need them, there'll be probably someone in your company that does, because this is part of like innovation across any company that uses research day to day. So any research-backed company is going to have to use it in some capacity. At least someone will do within the company. So for these workflows, like I mentioned, there are different ways to do this, but they tend to be very manual and time intensive. They require people with pretty broad set of expertise and a very specific skill set, in fact. Like I mentioned, they need to understand these different types of data that they're working with. Unless you're using a report type of generator that requires people to do searches across many different platforms, to understand how to do those searches. So that requires knowing the different types of options within So say if you're doing a search in USPTO, so patents versus on clinicaltrials.gov versus PubMed, they'll have different search systems. They're all going to retrieve results differently, and understanding how to build your booleans that you're going to be able to account for that. So it can be quite very time consuming, requires a lot of reading, a lot of understanding of the material, and then synthesizing down into a usually fairly short report to begin with, to then make a decision. Do we want to go continue down this direction, or do we want to do something else? If this is done in-house, it's you have a team you can talk to, and there can be a lot more conversation, and the process can seem faster, relatively faster. Outsourcing it for some people, it's not just the only option they really have, but it can be very expensive, and the amount of time that it takes can take a long time. So if you tell a consultancy, like, we're really looking to go into this area, they're going to do a very expansive search across that area, and you're not going to often don't have as much of a dialogue as you would have with an internal team. So you can delay time to market if you're waiting months for these reports to come in, and they're generally quite expensive. So I'm going to hand it back over to Heidi to talk about solutions and so forth.
Thanks very much. All right, so I don't think it's any surprise to anyone on this call that, AI and GPT, of course, are being leveraged to help accelerate these generation of reports, or even just on a wider level, just summarizing data in a way so that it's actionable, so that you're getting the insights that you need from this vast amount of information. So we'll talk first about GPT. Of course, this is top of mind for a lot of people right now. And again, it can summarize a large amount of data very quickly and also generate answers to very specific questions. However, of course, it is prone to hallucinations. So you're unable to sort of verify the sources, see where it's pulling information from across the public domain and sort of OpenAI's corpus of information. And of course, it's really unclear which sources are being pulled into that report, and sort of how it's summarizing the data. So it's really unable to validate, where that information is coming from. And of course, even if it's true, or, if it's been hallucinated. So there are, of course, pretty obvious limitations with GPT, but there are some really powerful, benefits to using this as well. There, of course, is a lot of efforts as well being turned towards developing your own LLM or large language models. So many organizations are sort of creating their own customized outputs using ChatGPT, or again, other large language models that they're developing in-house. But this does require, its own expertise in terms of engineering and committing staff to building out the LLM, as well as engineering the prompt to cater to specific outputs. And then, of course, there is still the need to make sure you have access to all of the external sources of information, whether it's publications, patents, clinical trials, what have you. So there is a lot of development that goes into leveraging these kind of custom large language models internally, which is exactly why we've developed our technology landscape module. So again, catering to this specific workflow here, utilizing the best of GPT, but also utilizing sort of human expertise and analysis, which I'll talk about here on the next slide. So this is sort of a comprehensive overview of the benefits to using our technology landscape module. Of course, with the power of search within Resolute AI, you are seamlessly searching things like patents, publications, tech transfer opportunities, grants, and clinical trials. Of course, we do cover more information within Resolute AI, but really these are the data sets that are key and have information relevant to sort of technologies and development, companies who are trying to find, specific niche or a type of technology that is going to set themselves apart from their competitors. So with the search, you also have the ability to kind of curate and organize your search results. We call them collections, and I'll show that to you in a live demo here in a moment, but it does allow you to easily access the sources that you're going to use to generate these reports, but also to manage and to continue to curate your research as you are moving through the technology landscaping process. Of course, as I mentioned, we are powering GPT here as well and using that to synthesize and summarize the key insights from each of these data sets. The benefit here as well is it does generate a lightly formatted document in a text file or Word document with citing sources as well. So we can actually see which sources are being utilized, in addition to be able to control which sources are utilized in that report. So it does enable you to add your own expertise on top of what is generated from the GPT integration, but also customize it into a format that works for you, that is standard, to your workflow. So a lot of great benefits here, kind of pairing the power of GPT with the human analysis as well. So again, I think Eléonore touched on a lot of these sort of insights you can get from the different data sets earlier, but again, looking at innovations that are already protected or areas that have already been commercialized, looking at latest research trends from publications, and also looking at associated challenges and risks. Looking at those opportunities for commercialization coming out of the academic space through tech transfer opportunities, funding priorities as well that are emerging, and then also from clinical trials, we can look at the practical applications of those technologies, and of course, the efficacy of those technologies. So again, all of this information we can quickly summarize into a Word document, typically within 15 to 20 minutes, depending on how much time you spend sort of searching, collecting your resources. But the time to generate the report itself, once you've made those selections, typically takes anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes, roughly. So yeah, that's an overview of our technology landscape module. And again, we are going to move into the demo portion of the call today. So I'll take you through what this process looks like, how you can filter within the platform and within the module itself to find the results or the sources that you want to use in your report, and of course the process for generating that output as well. Okay, let me transition here to Resolute AI. Great. So what you're seeing, this is our technology landscape module within Resolute AI. And it does offer a general search capability, which we'll use to start sort of finding the relevant sources, the relevant data from across these key data sets here. So we have publications, patents, clinical trials, grants, and tech transfer. And again, we are going to simultaneously search all of these data sets using this one search query here above. And then, of course, within each of the data sets, they will have specific filters that are unique to them that we can leverage. In this way, we'll be able to define kind of what our criteria is. Do we want to look at more recent publications? Do we want to look at like the most cited patents, for example? So again, you can use your own experience or criteria to define which sources are going to be helpful for you in the output that you want to generate here. So one of the examples I put together for today is lipoproteins, specifically used for drug delivery, sort of anti-cancer or oncology applications. So let me put in my first search term here. So again, I'm going to start searching for lipoproteins. You'll see already we'll start searching across the different data sets here. But again, this is a very broad sort of search term. So I want to kind of add to this to make it more specific. So again, looking for drug delivery as an application. So I'll add that as a search term here as well. Again, you can see we're starting to get more specific here, but still a lot of information to sift through. So again, I want to focus on sort of anti-cancer or oncology, different applications here in the oncology space. And I'm going to use some of my operators here just to allow for any sort of additional search terms. So I can search on one or more of these terms, and that will help me include additional results if I want. So I do have some flexibility there with my search operators. So now you'll see with this search, I've drilled down within publications to under 500 results, clinical trials, about 50, grants, 35, tech transfer 8. Patents is still quite high, but again, we have some specific filters we can use in patents to drill down to a more targeted set of results. So again, this is where you can select which criteria you want to use to find the most meaningful sources that we can use in the report. So starting with publications here, what I'm going to do is basically select the results that are most relevant or most interesting to me, based on, again, my expertise, my criteria. So I can, of course, use the checkboxes here to make selections and then add those as sources to generate my report. So again, we can sort here by published date. So we're looking at newest to oldest. There are some other options here as well. You have things like forward references. So if you were to sort in descending order for forward references, this would help you find the most impactful publications from this data set, but I'm going to leave it here as published date. We can also use a number of filters here on the left. This way we can drill down to a subset of the 429 publications, whether it's based on the published date. Maybe I just want to look at, the most recently published within the past 2 or 3 years, or I can search on things like different ontologies. These are additional metadata, essentially, or taxonomies that we've enriched our data set with to help us with searching, but also uncovering different connections across the database here. So maybe it's RX norm for compounds or drugs, brand names, etc., or maybe it's ICD-10 for disease classification. So again, these are different filters we can use to apply to the publications here. So I'm going to go ahead and make a few selections. So you'll see I'll use the checkboxes here along the right side of the page just to make those selections. So I can quickly glance through. I can see, of course, the title of the publication. I can see a little bit of context as well from things like the abstract. And I can go ahead and start, adding up to 50 different results to my collection here, which will then fuel the generation of the report. So again, I'm going to make a few random selections. So I can go ahead. Again, this is where you can take as much time as you need. So of course, there is some variation here, but you'll see I can go right into patents as well. So patents, again, will have some unique filters here that are, of course, different from publications, but you'll be able to navigate the filters just the same. So again, we have things like our tags and our categories. This is, again, the metadata that we're applying across all the different documents in Resolute AI. So that way you have a consistent structure and metadata, allowing for some of those connections across the different data sets. So you can see some of the patents or the tags that are coming up here within our patents data set. We can also, of course, let me collapse this. We can also look at patent families. So maybe I want to filter down to just the patents that have at least 5 or perhaps 10 patents within the patent family. These typically indicate that they've just invested more time or resources into the development of that technology, or perhaps just have a stronger claim on that part of the market. So again, these are different filters we can use here. Also forward citation count. So this is how many times that patent has been cited. This is a great filter as well. So maybe you want something that is, at least 5. We can apply a filter here and then narrow down the data set here just a little bit. So again, within patents, I'll make some selections as well. I'm not taking too much time here to validate these sources, but again, hopefully you will be able to take some time yourself, look through, read a little bit into the individual records here. And then same thing for clinical trials. Clinical trials as well, perhaps you can sort instead, by the completion date or perhaps even the start date. You'll also see we have a option for sorting by the publication count. This is how many publications have been associated to that clinical trial, and perhaps do have some results associated to them. So that is another option you have here as well. So let's look at start date, newest to oldest. And again, I'll go ahead and make some selections here. So that one's endometriosis. Let's go look at precision medicine. There we go. All right. So again, this part of the process does take a bit more time. I'm going to move things along here just by making some selections and grants as well. Again, feel free to explore the different filters you have access to, but don't mind me as I make some selections. And then lastly, tech transfer. So tech transfer, these are currently available opportunities that can be licensed from different academic research institutions. So just to give you some insight into what these opportunities actually are. And again, they are currently available for licensing. So you'll see throughout that process, I did make 20 different selections here. So I'm going to add those 20 items to a collection. So again, the part where I mentioned before, where I can curate, organize, and gather my research, this is exactly what I'm going to create here. So you can make a new collection or you can add to an existing one. In this case, I do already have this collection created, so I'll go ahead and add these results to that collection. So from here, I am going to navigate. I have a collections menu, which you'll access in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. And this is where you'll find all the different collections you've created throughout your research. You can dedicate different projects to each individual collection. And of course, I'm going to navigate into the collection I just added those results to. And you'll see this is where I can then go ahead and add notes or even things like visualizations to my collection. You'll also be able to generate, using GPT, different descriptions in the near future. So there will be some additional context to be able to leverage there. But you'll also see at the top, we do have our report generator. So from here, I can go ahead and select the report that I want to generate. In this case, Tech Landscape is our first available option. There will be more in the future, but you'll just go ahead and click submit, and then you'll see it will start to generate that report. So it does give you this sort of in progress download bar, so you can see how far along it is. You can see what time you started, but again, generally, again, depending on how many sources you've selected, it does take about 5 to 10 minutes. So relatively quick, but again, from start to finish, maybe 20 to 30 minutes tops. Again, just depending on how much time you're spending with the selection of your sources. So again, this is not using OpenAI's corpus of knowledge. This is using just Resolute AI data. So we are, eliminating potential hallucinations, and then also allowing you to introduce some bias into the report here as well, and controlling the output, based on which entries you've selected. So again, I did generate this report ahead of time, so I am going to show you what that output looks like earlier. So here I have my technology landscape report. This is, again, the general packaging, but it is a text document, so you can edit, you can add additional formatting, but you'll see it does pull out these key highlights here. So it does give you an overview of the report, what's included. It does mention that this is generated using GPT alongside Resolute AI here. So of course, we want to provide that caveat. But you'll see it does break down into industry overview as well as technology categories. So different technologies that might be included in the sources you selected, the profiles of those technologies, and then some information on the market as well. So you have market analysis, you have impact on industry, the challenges and risks, and of course your conclusion. The great thing as well is at the end, you have all of your references that were used in the report. So again, that selection we made at the start, you'll see all of those results here. So you can always link back to them. We'll also include the DOI for publications here. So anyone who doesn't have access can actually still read the publications in full if they wish. But again, you have transparency on what sources are actually being used to generate this information. So hopefully there is some validation there, some expertise and bias that you've introduced as well by making your own selections, but really just trying to combine the power of GPT with that element of human analysis as well. I did have another example. So again, sometimes these reports can be very specific, but if you were to generate something more broad, in this case, I did one on hyaluronic acid as well. And this one, of course, has many different applications, but as you'll see in things like the technology categories, it can often break these down into more specific applications. So things like skincare or medical treatments, industrial processes as well, and how hyaluronic acid is used in each of those. And then also you'll see within the profiles, different specific techniques or profiles that are listed out here. So again, in this case, I thought this report was really unique, and then it does show you at a high level different ways that hyaluronic acid is used across many different industries and different applications. So again, all of this was generated just using Resolute AI data and the module I showed you in the minutes before. All right. I think, let me check the chat here. or Julie, I'm not sure if you're monitoring, but yeah, happy
Yeah.
to answer any questions. So, keep them coming. But yeah, I believe that's all I have.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Heidi. Yeah, let's move back to the slides. And I did see a few questions come in already. So we're about to answer those. I just wanted to share two quick things right before that. So as the one right now, we have quite a lot of webinars at Research Solutions. So we're actually just promoting our most upcoming webinar series called ChatGPT for Science. So if that sounds interesting for you, we'll be talking about quality control in ChatGPT, research citations, and then a bit more of a technical exploration, the part 2 of that webinar series. I'm adding a link in the chat right now, so feel free to head over there and check out all of our either upcoming or on-demand webinars. And then also, if you like what you saw today, clicking on to the next slide, I'm adding just another link in the chat. If you'd like to, receive more information about the technology landscape module that Heidi just showed you today, you want a more in-depth demo, you want to invite some other people on the call, you can just head over to that link that I just added in the chat, fill out the form, and it'll directly give you the option to book a time on your calendar. Or of course, if you prefer being contacted via email, we can do that as well, just to schedule that follow-up with you. Okay, now let's get to all of your questions. And if you haven't added them, you're still on time, so feel free to add them as we start answering the first few. Okay, the first question I see is, do we use any information coming from GPT itself in the reports?
We do not. We only use information that's coming from anything, the references that you've provided. We go out of our way to do that. So sometimes if you say you added only like 3 publications that were pretty sparse on a lot of information, that means the report you're going to generate will have less information, and we're not just going to add fluff for the sake of it. So the content that is added really matters because it's the only content we're using.
Amazing. Thank you so much for answering that question. Good one. The next question is, how do we ensure there are no hallucinations?
So in the prompt itself, basically, like to generate these reports, so anyone who's used GPT or Bard or anything like that, you know that you have to ask a question, and like how you ask it really matters as to what the answer you get and the format that it's in. And this is exactly the same thing. So we have like a very lengthy prompt that we put together, and there's a lot of, if you don't know, do not answer it. If this information is not provided, do not answer it. So there's just continually saying, like, do not answer things if you cannot answer the information based on what is provided. It's just a lot of that, basically.
Gotcha. Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, the next question. Are there any plans to add inline referencing?
Yes, that will be very soon. Very, very soon. But we will have inline referencing. So all the references that you saw, what Heidi showed, everything will be, will have a reference to it. So you'll be able to see, where the information is actually coming from.
Awesome. And if you want to be first to know when that's added, head over to that link that I sent in the chat. And then, you'll be one of the first to know. Awesome. Next question that I see is, if I'm an existing Article Galaxy customer, how do I go about adding the technology landscape module to my account? Shall I speak to that, or Heidi, do you want to?
Heidi?
Sure, yeah. As far as I know, the technology landscape modules do require a separate subscription. So it would be an add-on to your Article Galaxy subscription. You do not have to be a foundation customer, so it can be purchased separately. There, of course, is the module, which we showed you today, but also access to the larger Resolute AI sort of search and discovery platform. So those two things are separate as well, but getting access to the technology landscape module is separate from your Article Galaxy subscription.
Perfect. Yeah. And to add to that, if you're an existing Article Galaxy customer and you know who your account manager is, of course, feel free to reach out to your account manager and they can help get you set up or provide you with further information. If you don't know who that is, that sometimes happens, you can use that same /sales link and it'll automatically connect you with your account manager right there. Okay, I see a question in the chat. How would you find a potential company, not academic tech transfer opportunity that might have an innovation that you might want to license or work with them?
Yes. So we actually have so we license Crunchbase. There's different ways you could do this. So on the search on Foundation itself, like you could search Crunchbase, so you're just looking at the companies and they have company descriptions and evaluate that way. Just searching, say, patents alone. I would say the strength of Resolute is it's good for people that are not necessarily patent experts. And so, because reading a patent is a very particular skill. So if you know how to read them, great. If you don't, we have a summarization feature. So if you're doing a search, you can kind of look through to find out, like in layman's terms, what those patents are looking at. And through our analysis, analytics section of the platform, then you can analyze who those assignees are for the patents that you're interested in. And then you can look at publications. But for this in particular, this is when I think it's really useful because it's a federated search, you're doing one search, but it's across many different data sets. And so looking across Crunchbase and patents and news and clinical trials and everything, it gives a better idea about where people actually, expanding or have expertise, or like someone you would want to work with. And I will mention to that, because of the affiliation piece, you can start to figure out who's working with whom. So in Crunchbase, we actually have a feature where you can look at a company and then you can see all the people, the top people, we'll call them, the people usually listed on Crunchbase, who they are then affiliated with. So you can start to see relationships between companies that can be sometimes a little bit difficult to identify. So especially when you're trying to figure out if you're wanting to work with someone, a license, work from someone, a partnership, you want to make sure that they're not necessarily already working for a very close competitor. And if they do, you want to be aware of that.
Amazing. Yeah, really good question. Thank you so much, Eléonore, for speaking to that. Okay, well, it looks like we've answered all questions. Everyone, this is your last chance if you want to add your question here. Of course, if any questions come up after the webinar, that sometimes happens. Feel free to reach out either via email, that email that you received about the webinar that came directly from me. So I'd be happy to forward all of your questions to Hiedi and Eléonore, or of course, feel free to reach out to them directly via LinkedIn, via email. So yeah. No question will be unanswered. Okay, well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining this webinar today and learning about our technology landscape module. Thank you so much, Eléonore and Hiedi, for walking us through it. And yeah, hope to see you on the next webinar if you signed up.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.